friends, I think I'm coming in between you and your lunch, so I'd like to keep it very brief. We're talking about IT infrastructure for the government organizations. I think all of us have understood that the essential prerequisite is to have these state data centers and have the statewide area networks, common service centers. Some of these things have always been considered as important pillars of IT infrastructure for the government. You've heard two states, North Indian states, and let me give you a perspective from the South. I think it's no exaggeration to say that in terms of use of IT in governments, South and North of India, I think there's a complete maturity difference between the South and the North. I don't know. It's
northern states are the South and southern states are the North. Let me put it like that.
And this possibly because maybe the process has started much earlier, because I don't think there is any problem in terms of the skills. There are a lot of people from North India working in South and vice versa. I think it's primarily to start from the fact that I think the starting point for the southern states had been much earlier. Just give you a quick example. I mean, we're talking about statewide area networks now for the entire country. You have most of the states have their statewide area networks. State like Andhra Pradesh, we had our statewide area network in 2000. And of course, it was not expanded to, say, the mandals and the block points, but at least we had a statewide area network from the state to the district. State data center, although it's now being understood, it's now the new currency in the country, and everybody will talk about state data centers, but we had a state data center way back in 2000, 2002. So there's a difference because of the starting point. But let me not digress further, quickly tell you that, for a good government system to work, what you require basically is optimal utilization of your resources. And that's where I think state data centers play a huge role. We're talking about Uttar Pradesh, and the secretary was informing you that, their utilization is just about 30%. Now we have in Andhra Pradesh, phase 1 completely utilized, phase 2 completely utilized, and now we are looking for some more space because there's absolutely no space left in the state data center. And it has brought down costs tremendously. I mean, earlier there were issues where individual departments were running their own data centers. There were issues of cost, there were issues of security, and now you have one common infrastructure which is being put to ideal use. I think setting up of state data center and virtualization. In Andhra Pradesh state data center, we have virtualized, and the ratio which my colleague from VMware was showing to us, I think it's quite true in our state data center. We have more virtual machines now than the real machines, because that's how we optimally utilize the existing resources. Coming to the statewide area networks, again, a very important pillar of connectivity for the government organizations. I think what would be also important for all of us to understand is, although we have created this vertical network from state to the district to the blocks, what is now going to be required, and that's where we are laying a lot of emphasis right now, is on the horizontal connectivity. Because it's not just essential that you have one point of presence and you connect a state to the district, because there are a lot of these horizontal departments where we would like to give them connectivity. So for example, in Andhra Pradesh, we have more than 7,000 locations which have been horizontally connected to the statewide area network, which is a vertical line. And because of this, what happens is the utilization has improved. Our statewide area network, now we have to go in for the phase 2, because we started with 8 MB for the districts and 2 MB for our blocks. Now we are going for 12 MB for the districts and 4 MB for the blocks. So again, this happens because you're able to put applications on board. Another principal pillar of success of any e-governance project in the government would be that we have to understand that all these departmental silos that we have created, are created because of our own internal issues and classifications, because various departments had to perform various activities. But for the citizen at large, what is important is to give him a single entry point, and that's why you call them portals. So you need to give them a single entry and the exit point, and that's how what we have done in our state is to conceptualize this Me Seva thing, wherein for all the government services pertaining to any department, there is a single entry and the single exit, which is through the Me Seva system, which is across the rural and the urban areas. And here we have also done an integration in terms of integrating all the kiosks that we have in the state. In our state, we had AP online centers in 2001. We had the eSeva centers in 2002. Common service centers of the Government of India came in much later in 2009-10. So what we have done is integrated all these centers and put them under this common umbrella of the Me Seva. So now we have more than 7,500 centers delivering a similar set of services. And this has also created a good network for the citizens, because they know this is the only point of contact they have with the government. I think this would be another piece of infrastructure that we will need to kind of look at. We're talking about the state resident data hub. I think if you look at the critical infrastructure pieces, I would agree with the secretary from Haryana, where he mentioned that there's a problem of multiple databases and they're not talking to each other. They're all in their own silos. What we have done, and I think this would be a shape of things to come, is to create a state resident data hub. In our state, we have created a state resident data hub, which is actually the data which we have obtained from the UIDI. Andhra Pradesh, you would know, is almost near saturation in terms of the UIDI coverage. And I think possibly by July end, we'll be closing the enrollment process in our state. So what we have done is built up this huge database of the residents of the state with their UIDA numbers and the complete biometrics and the demographic information inside. And what we now trying to do is to make all the departmental databases pertaining to various beneficiary programs get hooked on to the state resident data hub with the essential link of the UIDI number. And I think this too is a very important infrastructure, because this would really help address this problem of getting accountable and transparent delivery of various services which revolve around these beneficiary-oriented programs. Another thing I would like to tell you is that in the near future, what you will understand is this entire IT scenario, as far as the government is concerned, would be revolving around these three major pillars. Renu mentioned about the cloud computing and virtualization. I think this is what the shape of things to come. You'll also have two important pillars of infrastructure. One would be mobility. Now, you would all understand that the concept of hardware has completely changed. You don't need to carry your desktops and laptops these days. You just need to carry a small little mobile phone, and you're able to access your mails, you're able to transact the government businesses. I think in the time to come, you will realize that something similar is going to happen with all these versions of mobiles and tablets and phablets coming in large number. I think this is where we might have to move a lot of our understanding, and possibly that would be that might sound a bit futuristic, but I'm sure in the coming years, most of the government businesses also would move around these smartphones and mobile devices. Another thing which would be playing a huge role will be big data, and which is already playing a big role now in the private sector. I think something similar would have to come in the scheme of things as far as governments are concerned. We have repositories to large information sets available in various databases. It would be important for us to consolidate all this information, make use of these big data techniques, and create analytics out of the data that we have in the government. In terms of the overall IT infrastructure, I would still lay a lot of stress on the common service centers, primarily because our beneficiaries, the citizens, the common people, they're still not IT literate. And I was discussing with the co-panelists, and one reason why the income tax or the MCA 21 has become successful is primarily because of the strength of the people who are making use of that system in terms of their IT literacy. And I think if we have to address the other side of the India, where you have a large number of people who don't have access to internet or who don't have IT literacy, it will be important for us to have good network of common service centers. And it would also be very important for us to create a network led by individuals who have good capacities. And that's why in our state, in all our Mi-Seva centers, we lay a huge stress on the capacity building initiatives of the people who run these kiosks. And because they are our principal intermediaries. At the same time, the application development has to be so simple and so trivialized so that it's user-friendly and it doesn't take them long to getting used to the applications which are being given. In the Mi-Seva system, we are running 150 services right now pertaining to 20 departments. And we almost add a service on a daily basis these days. And it becomes very important that the capacities of the people who run these centers are strengthened. But when we talk of this entire IT infrastructure, one essential component, which is the skill sets of the people who are in the government. I think you may put a state data center, you may create a statewide area network, you may have good range of CSCs, but if you don't have the skill sets within the government, for the people who have to ultimately deliver those services, it would be absolutely impossible for us to achieve optimal returns from the infrastructure that we create. And that's why we need to have a lot of stress on this. And we are in our state trying to propose a dedicated IT cadre, because I think that's also becoming a principal constraint now. On the one hand, we're trying to offshore most of the work to the private sector, but we at least need to have a small dedicated cadre. Every private organization, big corporate organization will have a CIO who actually he reports to the board. But in most of our government departments, you don't have a chief information officer. You need to create a chief information officer who runs the IT agenda within the departments. As all of you would appreciate that IT department in itself is nothing. We're into everything, but we have only a means to an end, and we're not an end ourselves. So what would be important for us to create a dedicated IT cadre and create CIOs in various departments who run the IT agenda within those government departments. I think this would complete this entire picture of having a robust IT infrastructure for the government. We all agree that we need to have IT processes in, because that's the way life is. It would be, it's an essential prerequisite for good governance. So it's important that we lay stress on these critical pieces of infrastructure which are required to be there. So let me just conclude by saying that 4-5 pillars: good state data center, virtualization with cloud computing. You need to have devices where mobiles and phablets and tablets will play a principal role. You need to have good horizontal and vertical connectivity. You need to have a good network of common service centers. You need to have a single entry and exit points and common portals. I think some of these things would complete this entire infrastructure picture.